Welcome to the Peaceful Mind Podcast, a place for creating the peace of mind you need to be the best mom you were created by God to be. If you want to bring more balance, more joy, and more peace to your motherhood, this is the place for you. I'm your host, certified life coach and Catholic mom, Danielle Tienel. In the name of the Father, of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, let's get started. Welcome back, beautiful listeners. How are you this week? It is a beautiful Friday morning, well, late morning, and I am just looking out my window in my office, and I'm so glad that there is sunshine. Though it's cold and crisp and it's a winter day, we have come off a couple kind of overcast, gloomy days where I've definitely been able to get some more, or notice that I needed to get some more vitamin D because, you know, it just happens sometimes where you get those little January blues. But when I was in my prayer corner, that kind of sounded funny when I said it, prayer corner. I have this little couch that, yes, is up against the corner in my bedroom, and that is where I do my morning prayers. And I have this view out my bedroom, and I can even see buds like on the bushes outside, and it just made me smile this morning. And at the same time, the sun was like reflecting in the mirror off of me. And at first I was adjusting myself on my couch to, you know, kind of get out of the sunshine. And then I said, no, I want this light, you know, I can see it. I think of it as the Lord and the Holy Spirit just shining their light and their warmth on me. And I just sat in there in that moment for a while. So, you know, what I was feeling this morning in that moment is opposite of what we're going to be talking about on today's podcast. You know, before I started the recording, I listened to my introduction of the podcast. You know, I come on and I tell you what number it is, and then I have my introduction that plays. And, you know, when I listen to it today, I'm reminded of how I'm saying that what I want this podcast to do for you, moms, is to bring more balance, more joy, and more peace to your motherhoods and to your life. And it is so available to you. And it's especially available to you when we actually explore what the opposite is, right? So to me, overwhelm is, well, first of all, it's a feeling. It is not like a state of being where like you're actually, overwhelm is actually like a tangible item. It's not that. It's not something that is tangible. Overwhelm is an emotion. It's a feeling. It shows up in your body in what way for you? Just think about that right now. When you can tell yourself that you are feeling overwhelmed, how does that feel in your body? For me, it's like my head just feels full. It feels packed, and I get just kind of like a heat, a hotness. Hotness, is that even a word? But I just feel really warm, and I feel jittery. Okay, overwhelmed makes me feel jittery. Like there's a tightness in the chest, but also like there's this kind of buzzing energy when I feel overwhelmed. And so how does that show up for you? Is it something that makes you take more action? Like, do you get more busy? Or if you are overwhelmed, just everything just like stop for you. Like you just don't know what to do, so you don't do anything, right? Anyways, even just stopping for a moment and realizing what overwhelm, first of all, that it is a feeling, and that second of all, how it shows up for you, it's so important, because then you know and get really clear when you're in that feeling. And that's where you can then do something about it. So again, as I mentioned in the introduction, what we're trying more and more to bring to our lives, into our awareness, is this balance of life, this joy that we are all like worthy and deserving of experiencing, and then this peace, this calm, this deep knowing that all is right in our worlds, that we're exactly as we should be, that we know we have this Lord that loves us and created us, and that, yeah, we're going through a human experience right now, but that it is, a little bit of the Alpha and the Omega, right? Like, it's not going to be free of overwhelm, your motherhood. But when you step into it, where you just kind of forget sometimes that you've decided yourself to take on too much, or you haven't given yourself the time to actually, digest what's happening in your life. Again, from there, we want to just bring awareness, because this overwhelm that you're feeling can be overcome. And the way we do that is the way that we approach most things, and especially on this podcast, is that we know that our feelings are only caused by our thinking, the thoughts that we're having in that moment. And so when we know this, and when we're after having a peaceful mind, we want a joyful life, a balanced life, that all of those feelings come from taking hold of what you are thinking, which means you need to get clear and aware so that you can decide to change it. So I went to the Google to just look up what the definition of overwhelm said. And this is what it said: buried or drowning beneath a huge mass. It also had a definition that it means complete defeat and giving too much of a thing to someone, to inundate. So when you all saw that the title of this week's episode was Overcoming Overwhelm, what did you think? Were you like, oh, I need that. Like, that's so me. Yes. What is the answer there? Is it because you have these thoughts when I just read this, like what I just read in the definition, that you feel that or think that you're like buried and that you're drowning? And you're like underneath like this huge mass of things to do and to accomplish, or getting things done that you want to, or just there's so much going on that you just don't know what to do next, and that you really feel defeated because when you think of all that there is to do and that you don't have enough time to do it, or that you just don't, like I said, have enough time, and so you feel defeated, like you don't even want to start. And then you have these thoughts, I don't even know where to start. It's just all too much, right? So I then looked at what the definition of overcome is. And it means succeeding in dealing with a difficulty or a problem. And it also, to overcome also meant like to defeat, but to defeat, not that you feel defeated, but to like prevail. Again, overcome, to prevail in defeat. Where overwhelm had a definition of being completely defeated. So you see the similarities there? Like you can be overcome with something, which is just like being overwhelmed with something. But here I want you to know that you can overcome in a way where you are succeeding in dealing with overwhelm. So how do you do that? How do you overcome overwhelm? Well, I'm going to lay out a few steps, and I want you first to know that as with all things that I'm trying to, help you with through these podcasts is to know that the power for change is not about changing your circumstances, not about changing what's going on outside of you, not being kind of focused in that if only this wasn't happening, if only I didn't say yes to that volunteer job, if only the kids would not put every piece of clothing when they wear it for just a day into the laundry. I say that, but I'm not even just a day. Like sometimes my kids, they will wear something and it will be like for an hour and it will just go right back into the laundry basket. But anyways, I digress. What I wanted to say is that instead of looking outside, if you are feeling overwhelmed, when you come into that feeling, these are the steps you need to take. And I always direct you to step 1, which is to stop and pause and ask yourself a really good question, a powerful question like, why am I feeling overwhelmed? And have your brain go to work for you instead of indulging in this emotion and staying there. The first step to move out of overwhelm is to first recognize that you are and to kind of be a detective and figure out, what am I thinking that is making me feel overwhelmed right now? And so, as I've mentioned in prior episodes, a great way to do this is to answer that question with pen and paper, right? In what we call thought downloads. Take the time, just breathe a moment and answer the question, why am I overwhelmed? What am I thinking is making me feel overwhelmed? And just write it all down. It can be like, I haven't ordered those books for homeschool. I still need to get the garage cleaned out before the realtor comes over and takes pictures. I need to remember to make the kids' checkup appointment. Oh, it's so-and-so's birthday and I really want to get a card out to them. There's just so much that's swirling around in our heads. And then when we see them, when we get it out on paper, especially, this is what I like for you to do. When you're doing that, ask yourself the question, what else? What else is in there? What else do I have to do? What else is overwhelming me? When you have the list and you take it out of your head and onto paper and you get to see it, now you get to evaluate. And from here is step 2. Out of all the things you see, it's time to see which ones are really pressing, which ones are necessary. We could prioritize them, put them in order, and then actually also see that there are some things that you don't want to do or don't have to do, and you can take them out on the list. Or maybe you just at that moment know you want to get it done, and then you put it on your calendar, right? You just put it on your calendar, and that way you don't have to think about it, and you'll get your reminder when it's time to do that. Overwhelm is a feeling that if you don't become aware of it and take action towards thinking something different and moving towards having balance, towards feeling peaceful about what's going on in your life, if you don't become aware, then you're going to stay in the state of always feeling overwhelmed because you'll have this belief that you have too much to do or that you're just juggling so much or I don't know when I'll have time to do it all. And it'll just be a loop, a cycle. So I briefly mentioned the word indulgent there, and I just want to give some clarification. So feeling overwhelmed is what we call feeling an indulgent emotions. Now, our emotions are the fuel for having us taking action in life. Like in order to do anything or not to do anything, there's first a feeling or an emotion that you have that's going to drive you to take action. So, feelings, they're very useful. And we define them as like whether they're good or bad or positive or negative. But what if we're just in the moment you think right now, just like that all feelings are useful in a way that they will serve you to take action. But there are a few exceptions to this, that in that whole plethora of feelings and emotions that you could choose from, there are several that are called indulgent emotions, and I want you to know that they serve no purpose. They don't serve you and your well-being in any way. And the feeling of overwhelm is one of them. So it's got zero benefits. And, if it was limited like 100% from your life, like that would be okay. And whereas there's other, quote, negative emotions that we think we'd want to eliminate from our life, but really we wouldn't. Like, you wouldn't not want to feel sad. Like sad is a negative emotion, but there are times in life where you would want to choose to be sad, right? But I'm here to tell you that overwhelm is one of those indulgent emotions that doesn't have a positive purpose to be had or to be found. When especially you dive deep into overwhelm and you really know what it is. And for many of you, it's a comfortable feeling, like you're used to it. And you think it just is something that's part of you. You're used to having it and, it's sort of like a natural state because along with feeling overwhelmed, within that emotion, there's also other common emotions that you wrap up in the feeling of overwhelm, like busy and tired and exhausted. But where you can see that you've ever had a result that you wanted in your life because you were feeling overwhelmed, no, it's just not possible. Because when you're indulging in the emotion, you don't have any traction for growth or movement. And overwhelmed, it's kind of tricky. It seems like it should be necessary, right? That it would be helpful to propel you and to prevent you from what you really want to do. And we often don't do anything when we're feeling it. So it just gets to be an excuse not to show up in your life. And there's a big difference between telling yourself that you're tired and feeling overwhelmed because you have so many things to do, and then actually being tired from producing in your life and taking care of all your responsibilities and creating the things that you want, because that kind of tired and exhaustion actually feels good. So this next step, we have to take control of really what it is that we have control of. And once you've seen your list of everything that's going on, or if you don't even write a list and you, again, have done the first step of recognizing that you're feeling overwhelmed, from there, decide, how do you want to look at it all? How do you want to even just feel instead of overwhelmed, right? So in order to change feeling overwhelmed, you're going to have to think a different way about everything. So, what is really important to you at the moment? What is it that you want to be doing right now? What brings more of a peace about because you're like, okay, I'm just human. I have this break of time to work on this particular thing on my list. Or you can just say, the Lord's got me, right? I'm just going to breathe a few minutes. Or maybe you'll decide to go get, your calendar and actually take some of the items and put it down on it so you don't have to have it swirling around in your head and you know that they'll get done. And then I want you to think like, I don't have to do that, or I don't want to do that, or delegate it to someone else. But you can just give yourself love and compassionate thoughts about, you know what, I'm doing the best I can with what I have at the moment, or right now I'm going to be focusing on this with my work or my job, and I know that my kids are fine and that they are being taken care of, and so I don't have to be overwhelmed that I'm not with them right now. Do you see how there's so many more options out there in whatever situation you are in, whatever your life circumstances are that right now you're believing are overwhelming? The way you overcome them is by becoming aware of everything you're thinking, and then from there deciding, what else could I think about it all that feels better, right? Especially when we know we're not really alone if we tell ourselves in this, that you don't have to do it all. Maybe what you're doing, you're choosing to do it. It's just a little tweak, a little different perspective. And that is all it takes, because it's just a feeling. And feelings are controlled by our thoughts. So to have more peace and less overwhelm, the simple direction I can give you is the importance of becoming aware of what you're thinking and then consciously choosing a thought that brings you closer to feeling less overwhelmed, moving towards peace, and not pushing the blame that it's something outside of you that's causing the overwhelm, because it never is. So here's what I really want you to take away from this episode, mamas. I want you to just know that overwhelm is a feeling, and it's actually one of those indulgent emotions, indulgent feelings that doesn't serve you at all. And I know what it is that you want. You want to feel in control, in balance. You want to feel at peace. You want to feel as if you're doing a good job, that you've got it together, that you're not a mess. And that starts with first knowing that the power to change your feelings doesn't have to depend on anything outside of you. It only depends on you, your brain, your mind, how you take a hold of your mind and take responsibility for where you're directing it. And the exercise and the steps of overcoming overwhelm are simply knowing what it feels like to be an overwhelm, recognizing that it's a feeling that won't serve you, and then taking action to find out what it is that you're currently thinking that makes you feel overwhelmed, and know that you can give yourself compassion and love that you have those thoughts, because the intention behind of doing it all and wanting to do a good job and taking on many things, that of course your intention behind it is to do well for yourself and your family, right? So Then once you have that awareness of what it is, then have the power to change and think something differently. Put your focus towards thinking that you're in control, that you get to decide what to keep on your plate, what to let go of, what's important, what should be the priority, what someone else might be able to take from you, what it is that deserves to be on your calendar and have your attention. And just know that we can sometimes just let the things that we don't really have control of, just lay them at the cross, right? And ask God for his help and to take care of it for you. And just know in the asking that it is done. So I hope that this episode gave you some things to think about, in that this natural state of feeling overwhelmed all the time doesn't have to stay this way. And you can move yourself towards peace with that beautiful mind of yours. And I hope that you will put this into practice into your life right now, so you can see what the power you have to direct a peaceful mind that will give you a peaceful heart, which will have you showing up in a more peaceful way, and so that you can create more peace and balance and joy in your life right now. Okay, overcome, overwhelm, mamas. I love you so much. Have a fantastic week, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Peaceful Mind Podcast. Are you ready to take everything I teach you here and put it to work for your own life? To really learn how to have peace of mind no matter what is happening around you? If so, I'd love to have you as a client. As your coach, this is where you'll get personal and focused time on your own mind, using life coaching tools, concepts, and proven life-transforming wisdom, all through a faith-filled lens. To learn more about how we can work together, come on over to danielleteenel.com. There, you'll see how to sign up for a free coaching consult and learn how to get started. Until next time, peace be with you always.